there is that possibility for you to go and see the technical manager just to make sure that taping was all okay.
But should you stop the race?
No, I wouldn't stop the race. I'd do it afterwards. I didn't stop the race for that kid. He said, yes, I'd been to see, so I just took that on face value that they had seen. The technical manager, if you can note the kid's name and maybe go and see the technical manager later, that's a possibility too. Just be aware that I think you also need to be aware, particularly check starters and Clerk of the course, what is happening around the pool. You know, there's in the pool behind, there's a whole heap of kids and stuff like that, a whole heap of noise coming on and all that sort of stuff. So be aware of that, or why is there a bit of a hold up or something like that. I think that you need to be aware in any position you are that certainly that something could go wrong. Particularly check starters, you've got the kids lined up, kid breaks their goggles, they've obviously burst into tears, they've vomited on the pool deck, which actually did happen the other day. So you need to be aware of that, or something else has gone a bit wrong. The block's broken or something like that, and the referee hasn't seen it. So you're aware of that all the time as well. And be aware there at Australian Champs, even State Open, etc., there could be media around. So how we dress, what we look like, how we say things, all those sorts of things. As Dave said today, at Australian Championships, the microphone's on the starting stand. You've got to be careful what you say there. So if you have a kid who does a starter before the starting signal and you go, oh shit, that's going to come over on the feed, okay? So because it's live feed most of the time. But be aware that media are around, particularly if it's in the call room as well. For those of you who have been in the call room, girls wear their costumes, their straps come down, all right? And someone in the call room, they ask someone to put the straps in. If the media is around, you've got to tell them, look, hey, just go behind there so that they don't take any pictures of you and stuff like that. At Australian Championships, they often have a camera actually in the call room itself or somewhere like that. So they need to be aware of that, because otherwise they'll just do it and it goes on live stream and stuff like that. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about be aware of the media. I think that covers off most things. I'm happy to answer questions if I can. If not, I'll pass over to the TSC actually. Yes, Jeff.
How would you adjust things if there's no scoreboard?
If there's no scoreboard,
I would. That's check starter.
What do you mean?
Would you go start and call out the names again? Revert to that?
Yeah, probably. I think you have to assess the situation as it happens. Probably if there was no score, like as in if you're doing it at a local pool, you probably might want to revert back to a traditional marshal or a call room check start situation. That's perfectly acceptable to do that, in terms of you assess what needs to happen at that particular time, at that particular pool, so that everybody gets into their race. I think that's perfectly acceptable, and that's sort of local rules for that particular meet, that would happen. Yeah. Thanks.
Neil, shouldn't the check starter hang around till after the start of the race, just in case the false start rate has dropped to?
Oh, they can do that. Yeah. But you also have, if you're lucky enough to have judges of strokes, they should be putting that back up.
No, but what I'm saying is, if the false start rate's dropped, so there's something went wrong with the start, for example, shouldn't the check starter sort of hang around to make sure the swimmers go back?
Oh yeah. Those normal things are still there. There's just a few other minor adjustments that have been made. sort of at the beginning of the race and stuff like that. But yes, that would be the normal procedure, that you would make sure the kids are still in the right lane, in the right event, etc. Because that event, that heat, if there was a starting before the starting signal and the false start rope had been dropped, because what may also happen is that the false start rope hasn't been dropped, but it needs to be called back, and so though you need to make sure you've collected those kids, because the next heat may not be that heat. The referee may decide to do it 2 heats later to give those kids a little bit of a rest. So the next, say, heat 3 and heat 4 go up, they do theirs, and then they go back to heat 2. So you need to make sure you've corralled those kids, so you've got them all together. So those sorts of things still are part of your duties as a check starter. I've really probably only gone over the things that probably have changed in terms of state and Australian meets, and maybe sometimes this is what people are doing at their area meets as well. So the question I asked before, who does the amalgamations or the reseeds? Who should do them? Well, if you know beforehand, or you've got 10 heats before or something like that, who should be the person who does it?
The clerk of the course would have a solution, would go to the technical manager and the referee for their permission, and then go in control.
Yep. What about if the check starter saw that it could be amalgamated? Who does it then? I'm saying, maybe 5 heats before. If we're doing it too close, it might waste more time because you don't know exactly. If it was, say, 5 heats ahead, I think at Metro we had one roughly around that. It was 5 or 6 events ahead, and we could do something about it. Who would then do it? The clerk of the course has no idea because they don't know who's up there.
Yeah. I think it's the same principle. You've got the check start there, they can having a lot, but it did happen. Because, one over. And then he brought it over and said to me, can I do this?
It was a 400.
Yeah, it was a 400. Yeah. Can we do this? And I said, yep, you can do it, go and do it.
Yeah.
And then we went through the process to win the control room.
It's only been 2 spins.
Yeah.
There was one event at Metro where we changed the scores when they were on the board when they were already in the water.
Which was that same event?
It's the same one, isn't it?
What I'm probably saying is for the 50, 100, 200, don't do anything even if it's one event before. If it's 5 to 10 events before, 20 events before, or before the meet actually starts, because Greta gets emails right up to the time of the event. But the unfortunate thing is programs have already been printed off, other stuff's been printed off, the meat's been seeded, all those sorts of things, because they've got to get it there. Sometimes, yes, if it was before the meet actually started and we knew about it, then that's a possibility. The other interesting one that I had at Metro was that there were three kids, I think. I think it was a 400 metres. I think. Anyway, let's say that it was 400 metres. I didn't know whether all the kids were turning up, like I wouldn't. And so I just sort of went to try to find out. I found out that one of the kids, the coach had actually gone to the recording room, I don't know when, and the kid had been pulled out. He's still in the program. I knew there were a couple of other kids who'd pulled out. Didn't know that kid had pulled out until I actually went and found the coach and said, is this kid here? Just so that I went, the last 3 kids, I went, are these 3, well, there was one of them, are these kids here? The kid wasn't there because the coach had actually pulled them out with the recording room, so nothing came through me. I've talked to Graham about that, so that was a that was a bit of an anomaly because no one had either picked it up either on the computer either because everything had been printed already. Ariel.
I actually find that a lot though, that the coaches will actually email Greta up until the 5 minutes before it starts, and so she'll have all these ones, but it goes to the meet manager person, but it doesn't filter up to marshalling. Is there a solution to that?
Well, I've talked to Graham about that solution, is that possibly at that 8:30 mark, or whatever time we start, the program is printed, not the program that everyone wants to get and your program is the session program or whatever, the program for the wall and perhaps the clerk of the course is printed then, not the day before, because I think Greta normally does it the day before.
Yeah, well,
I think,
Probably a little bit like we used to print
Yes,
slips.
that would solve any problems of who's been pulled out at that particular time. I think, I don't know.
I was going to say that works because at an area level, we publish the program, but what I print is the one that's the day, the night before, and that's what technical officials get, and that's what goes on the wall.
It would be, go on, sorry.
And I've got it on the website. I actually put this may change.
I think that could be the solution to it. It's not done till that 8:30 in the morning, but the clerk of the course might get a single-sided sheet. So the reason why is because that sheet, well, they can then see, the kids have just been pulled out, still the same number of heats, etc. Greta wouldn't reseed it because things can happen with that reseeding, and then the clerk of the course can actually see, oh, I've got 3 lanes vacant, I've only got 2 in this last heat, we could put them up into the heat before. That would work, I think, a little bit better. Until we actually do it, I don't know. So that, I think, would solve some problems as long as it's not reseeded, and then you can actually see, because that sheet, if they're single-sided sheets for the clerk of the course, can go straight to the check starter and say this has been amalgamated or something like that.
Because I looked at the stats and there were about 50 that had scratched beforehand, before the meet started, and about 250 no-shows. But of those, they had probably emailed
So that may overcome that problem, I don't know. So that's something that we'll just have to... There are faults with self-marshalling.